welcome back to the channel. This week we are taking a look at something quite unique, certainly something I've never reviewed for the channel before. The sounds you're currently hearing from my guitar are not being generated by a computer plugin or a floor-based modeler or a rack-based modeler even. They are being generated by this, a smartphone-sized modeler from Boss called the Pocket GT. I've had this unit in for review for the past 3-4 weeks now, so I'm quite familiar with it now at this point. Whilst it does have its limitations, I think for its size and its price, it's really amazing what they've been able to cram into such a tiny box. This unit retails for round about 150 quid. For that price, Boss claims that you get over 100 amps and effects to play with. The reality is you get 27 amp models, but you do get a really good amount of effects, which all sound excellent. I was surprised to see that this is a battery-powered unit. It's charged via USB. Of course, you can still use it plugged in if you're worried about the battery running out. Boss claims about a 4-hour battery life, and I have to say that my experience with it kind of tallies up. It does actually last quite a long time. As you can see, there's a very basic set of controls on the front of the unit. You have the guitar in, you have an aux in as well if you want to play backing tracks or anything else into the unit. The sound of your guitar is sent out via a 3.5mm jack. I assume this is because it's mainly aimed at people playing through headphones. However, as you can see here, I am using a 3.5 to 1/4 inch jack adapter in order to send it through my FRFR and speaker monitors. This unit boasts a fully wireless editing app called Boss Tone Studio. Not only is that app available for Mac and Windows, but it has a wireless app for your phone, iPad, tablet, all that sort of thing, which for the price is just amazing. Recently on the channel, I reviewed the Line 6 Catalyst. One of the criticisms I had of that amplifier was that it did not have wireless editing. Some of you in the comments thought that I was maybe asking a little bit too much of that amplifier for its price to expect wireless. I'm gonna have to disagree with you there, because this thing I got for $149 and it has one of the best wireless editing apps I have ever used, and I am gonna demonstrate that for you in a minute. Not only that, but this unit boasts full YouTube integration, which is quite interesting. The idea being that you can play back YouTube videos through your phone and the audio will be coming out wirelessly through the Pocket GT. Now, I think this is a great feature for people who are doing, for example, video lessons through YouTube, or for people who are just simply wanting to play along to their favorite songs. You have fast forward, pause controls built into the unit with buttons on the front. You also have a center cancelling feature. The idea of that is to make the vocals less prominent in the mix of a song. So if you're lacking a backing track, you can play the original version of that song and the vocals should be quieter so you can hear the guitar parts better. Whilst this is a great feature, I actually would have preferred to see a foot switch on this thing as opposed to the YouTube controls. The reason being is that the rotary controls on the front of this device are fully programmable, so you can set the 3 knobs on the front and the switches to do whatever you want them to do. Now, I would have loved to have seen a foot switch on this thing that was also programmable, so you could program that to do patch changes, to kick distortion pedals in and out, and I think it would have been a better thing to include with this as opposed to the YouTube controls, because you can control YouTube videos just with your phone wirelessly. That's the whole point of this thing being integrated with it. Now, if this thing had a foot switch, this would be a really viable option for using for just rehearsals or something like that. Now the overall fidelity and quality of the amp modeling, of course, it isn't going to be up there with something like a full-size modeling unit like Boss's own GX100 or a Headrush pedal board or a Quad Cortex or anything like that. So I think it's important that your expectations are in the right place going into using this thing, which is this isn't going to be the best amp modeling you ever heard. But actually, I found with a little bit of work, the sounds are more than serviceable. And I've actually come up with a couple of rigs in this thing that I think sound really good, like certainly as good as anything I've had out of, say, like a Helix or one of the older modeling products. I'm going to take you through one of the patches that I've created on the Boss Pocket GT and just show you how the signal chain works and how you build rigs. So we've got quite a few blocks to play with, certainly more than I was expecting. We can add effects up front here, so we can add things like choruses, acoustic guitar simulators, pitch shifters, phasers. I mean, there's a huge selection in there. Each block does have its own set of effects and you can move the blocks around, so you do have some flexibility with your signal chain as well. So this is my rectifier rig. Sounds pretty good. So let me take you through the signal chain block by block. So first of all, we have an overdrive up front, a good old-fashioned tube screamer. Here's the list of overdrive pedals you can choose from. There's a good selection in there. Yes, even the Boss Metal Zone. Next in the signal chain, we have the Boss noise suppressor, just to kill some of that extra noise introduced by the overdrive. Next up, we have the amp block. So here is the list of modeled amps. Like I said, there's 27 in there, and it's a pretty good selection. There is some of Boss's own stuff in there, so these aren't real amps, these are amps that Boss have sort of made up, basically. But they're all serviceable. There's nothing in there that's like overly offensive, do you know what I mean? For the most part, they do need some tweaking. Like, I have to say that although each amp model has its own custom impulse response paired to it, it doesn't sound amazing out of the box. So just be prepared to spend some time tweaking it in this app to get it to that sweet spot. So we have some basic options here for this amp model, like the same you do with the others. So we have the basic EQ, presence, gain. You can change the cabinet simulation, but I'll be straight with you, anything but original sounds terrible. Like, all of these others just sound horrendous. So here's the original sound. So that's Boss's custom impulse response for this particular amp model. So if I change that to, for example, a 4x12, just got that like AM radio sound, and like I said, they all sound just crap, really. Here's a 2x12. And then 1x12. If we go back to the original, here's the original. I mean, like I said, it's almost pointless having that option there, really. It's not like you can even tweak any of the cab sims either, so you can't tweak the microphone that's being used, its placement, none of that. Just leave it on original. That's my best advice for you guys. Next up in the signal chain, we have tone modify. This is a really important part of high gain rigs, especially with this unit I found. Now, there isn't an obvious way to just do a basic high and low cut. So the best way of doing that I've found is with the second effects block in the signal chain is to use tone modify. You can either use the tight or the enhance, and you can just tweak the high and the lows in there. And I found that's actually the closest method of doing just like a basic high and low cut. I've taken quite a bit of the high off of this amp because, like any rectifier, it's pretty fizzy. Here's how it sounds with the high just zeroed off. Yeah, I mean, it's just like fizz central. Let's just take that back to where it was. You do have many options for this second effects block if you want to use it for something else. You can insert a graphic EQ, a compressor, acoustic simulator, phaser, pitch shifter, all sorts of stuff in there. I mean, I was really surprised with how many effects are in there and how flexible they all are. It's really impressive for such a small unit. And here we move on to the end of the signal chain. So we have a pan delay, so it's kind of like a stereo delay type thing. And like you can see here, there's a good amount of options with delay time. I'm glad they've included a high cut option in there as well. So here's how that sounds. I'll turn it up in the mix for you a little bit more here. It's a really nice delay sound, and I have to say that all the effects really sound good. There aren't any bad ones in here. It's great to see that Boss has been able to kind of apply all the knowledge it's got from all the years of making effects pedals to making the effects in this thing sound really good. In addition to being able to do deep editing and customization of your signal chain, we also have a built-in tuner, which functions great, really well, nice and low latency. There's a bass guitar mode in there for you bass players. Here we also have a bunch of different options for customizing your presets, also for changing the assignment of the knobs on the front of the unit, so each button and each switch can be made to do something different to what it's actually labeled as, which is awesome. Like I said, I wish there was a foot switch on this thing that you could customize. Now, one of the most important features of the amp modeling on this unit, I feel, is the ability to turn off the built-in cabinet simulation. Like that, boom. So now you just have a simulation of an amp head. Now, why is that important? Well, what that enables you to do is send the signal from this into any of those small kind of pedal-based power amps, just like this. So, potentially, this and this could be your entire rehearsal, maybe a gig rig. It fits in one hand, this whole setup. So you have that for your amp modeling and your tones. You have this to drive any basic guitar speaker cabinet or anything like that. I just think that's such a cool prospect. Like, imagine rocking up at a rehearsal and all your bandmates are lugging in amp heads and rack mounted stuff, and you're just like, yeah, that's my rig, lads. That's me sorted. This particular power amp is the Harley Benton GPA 100, which is ultra affordable. I think it's about 70 quid. So for just over 200 quid, like, that's an entire rig there that fits in the front pocket of a gig bag. That can drive a 4x12 speaker at huge, like, rehearsal volumes. If only this thing had a foot switch on it instead of those play, pause, skip controls for YouTube. You'd just be set with this thing if you could program that foot switch to change between, say, two patches, or even just kick in and out a distortion pedal. It's a shame, but as it is, there is a hell of a lot you can do with this thing. This can be something that sits on the living room coffee table, and when 8, 9 o'clock rolls around at night, you stick a set of headphones in it, you plug your guitar in, and you've basically got everything you need for a little jamming rig. Yes, it's not going to be the best quality amp modeling you've ever heard. The best way I can sum it up is to think of the amp modeling in this as being 1 or 2 generations behind the cutting edge. That being said, the sounds you can get with just a little bit of tweaking and some EQ, high cut, low cut, they're perfectly serviceable, they're not offensive in any way. I managed to create a really nice ambient clean sound and a chunky heavy high gain sound relatively quickly with this thing. For those of you out there who are learning how to play guitar or are trying to go from sort of beginner to intermediate, I really do recommend this thing as just a tool to have around the house, you know, especially if you live in an apartment with neighbors, or, you know, you have young children and you need to play with headphones on. For you more advanced guitarists, this can be something that you take on tour with you. You just chuck it in your laptop bag or your gig bag. It's so unbelievably light and tiny that there's no excuse to sort of not take it with you, really. You can use it as a USB interface for your laptop, so it's got all the capability you'd need for recording or rehearsing along to backing tracks. The only criticism I can level at this product is that the build is slightly cheap and plasticky. You know, a drop down some stairs and this thing is probably not going to come off looking too great. However, in terms of what it does, this is such a powerful package, and I am absolutely astounded what Boss has crammed into this little unit. Any of you Pocket GT users out there, I would really be interested to hear how you've been using this unit. There is such a breadth of possibilities that where this thing can fit into like a guitarist's tool set. I really would be interested to hear how you've been using it, so do let me know in the comments if you are a Pocket GT owner. Thank you very much once again for tuning in to my channel. If you enjoyed this video, please do think about chucking me a subscribe or a like. It really helps me and encourages me to continue making content for you. Better yet, you can support the channel via the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. Until the next video, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.